Today we're going to have an amazing interview with Jessie Fields, who will be talking about sexy boundaries. Ladies, my soul sisters out there, if you are wondering how to set healthy boundaries, receive the love that you always wanted from your man or from your partner, this is the interview for you. So let's welcome to the stage Jessie Fields.
Just thank you for this opportunity for allowing me just to share some amazing information with you and your audience. I'm excited. I think we're going to have a blast.
Oh, absolutely. So tell me a little more about what it is that you do.
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question, right? There's so many layers to that, but just to start, I'm just a witness, right? I've seen so many things growing up. I grew up in a household full of amazing women, an amazing mother, and full of amazing aunties. And I was very observant, right? It's funny, Trina, the only time I spoke is when my mother or my aunties would call my name. Other than that, I would just keep quiet and just pay attention. But interestingly enough, I took a lot of notes and I fell in love with relationships. And I grew up with a healthy level of respect and regard for women because I seen the challenges that women had. So that's part of the reason why I'm here, I guess, right? But another part, I am a husband, right? I am a father as well. And I like to say jokingly that I am a recovering selfish man, Trina, right? I had to grow. I had to grow as a husband. And as a younger husband, I learned a lot. And actually, I learned how to love my wife. And mainly because of she taught me to love her, right? As much as I tried to love her in my own strength, right? We learned that we teach people how to treat us. And when finally my wife kind of recognized who she was and stepped into her own power and started honoring her no, I fell in love with her more because although we were married, I truly did not see my wife for the woman she was, right? I saw her as my wife. I saw her as the mother of our young child at that time, but it was difficult for me to truly see Patrice who she was until she finally revealed herself to me. And I think part of that is when she came into the knowledge of who she was, right? So, so partly growing up in a household full of women, the other part being married to an amazing woman who came into her own and recognized her own power and finally stood up for herself. And I was like, this is amazing, right? I know from firsthand experience because I can imagine there's a lot of women right now who are in relationships, who are married, right? Who are engaged to be married, who have boyfriends even. And I was who their man is now, right? I know what it is to be perhaps a little more selfish, in my wife, right? But I grew and I took copious notes in this transformation, and it helped me to come up with my book called Receive Love as an Inside Job.
Oh, wow.
Available now on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
But it's, I'm in love with women who stand in their own strength and power. And I was changed personally by powerful women. I'm married to a powerful woman. And I just like, there's something to this. There's something to be said when a woman stands in her power and when she truly loves herself. And I was like, wow, more women need to know about this. Like, how can I share this with more women so they can stand in their own power and honor their no? And it led me to creating a company called Boundaries Are Sexy, right?
Ooh, I love that.
Because boundaries are absolutely sexy. And I
Yeah.
would like to say to your audience, ladies, if you're unsure if boundaries are sexy, I can tell you from firsthand experience, the more boundaries in your relationship, the better.
Mm.
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the more boundaries you create in your relationship, you'll begin to recognize when the relationship with your man ends and where the relationship with you yourself begin.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
love to say to women that the most underword used word in the English language is, well, Trina, I'll ask you, what's the most underused word in the English language?
Oh, I don't know.
it's,
I don't know. Thank
it's,
you or please. I mean, I guess we do use those, but I don't
yes,
think we
yes.
say them enough.
I love your answer, Trina, because as most women, yeah, they may not know, or they
Mhm.
might think it's thank you, right?
Yeah.
Because we find ourselves to have this need to always say thank you or to overgive. But the
Mm.
most underused word in the English language is actually two letters, N-O, no.
Ah, yeah. Of course
And
it is.
yes, ma'am. And no is a complete sentence, but I
Mm.
find many women, they like to add on to their no.
Mm.
Right. And when you add on to your no, you actually do a disservice because you're not true to who you are when you have a yes in your mouth, but you have a no in your heart. And you're
Mm.
actually not being true to your husband or to your
Mhm.
or to that other person when you're saying no. So, firstly, I love empowering women to honor their no.
Mm. So, I can just see women be like, okay, I know boundaries, I know I have to set boundaries,
Sure.
but there are so many things that I have to take care of. And, my kids can't get themselves fed, my husband has needs. And so, setting boundaries or saying no, how can I still honor my obligations and other people's needs, right? Because they're going to be upset with me.
Come on now, Trina. Come on now. I love it. Now we getting down to it. We getting down to the nitty gritty, right? It is a challenge, right? Especially if it's something that we're not used to doing. And there's going to be a piece of us that will say, oh, this is too difficult. I don't know if I can assert healthy boundaries, right? But what makes it so much easier, and I tell women this, and when I share this with them, it almost like a light bulb goes off. It's like when you say no to others, you are actually saying yes to yourself.
In what way? How does that work?
My gosh, I love it, Trina. I love it because this is the thing. If you focus on saying no to this, saying no to your kids, asking for that extra snack, if you focus on saying no to your husband, right? No, I'm not going to do those chores. I'm instead going to go to the gym, right? If you focus on saying no, it becomes so difficult and so overwhelming. But if you flip that on its head and you start to say yes to yourself, then it's more or less, I don't have to do this. I actually get to do this.
Mm.
And that reframing and thinking is so much more powerful when you start to say, with every interaction, I can finally say yes to myself.
Mm.
I can finally say yes to to me and no to my husband. I can finally say no to my kids and yes to me. Because
Mm.
the thing is, Trina, and I think you kind of touched on it, there is a reason why so many women struggle with saying no. But to make it a world easier, when you say no, Trina, to others, you're actually not saying no to them. Do you know that?
Mm. I think I might know why, but you let me know.
Okay. You're not saying no to that person. You're not saying no to your husband. You're not saying no to your kids. You're simply saying no to their request.
Mm. Mm.
And I'll have to say that again because I think that's so eye opening.
Yes.
We tend to personalize that no, right?
Mm.
Oh, if I say no to my husband, he's going to see me different. Or if I say no to my kids, they're not going to see me as super mom, right? But you're simply saying no to their request. and you're
Mm.
still honoring and loving that person, but
Yeah.
you're saying no to the request. And that takes the
Right.
pressure off,
Yeah.
because we can say no to people and still love them, right?
Yeah.
And the
So
good,
kind of taking the person out of the situation here. It really is, what stays in my yard, doesn't go into your yard. If I can be my separate person, if I can be who I am and just focus on kind of my needs,
yes,
anything that comes from you is, I don't take personal. It's just more of a, if you have a request, I can say yay or nay, pretty much.
that's it, Trina.
And if I say no, then you're not going to take it personally. And there's maybe other things that we will see eye to eye on.
Come
Is
on.
that kind of that establishment that you've created with your wife and now you're teaching?
Absolutely. And the thing is, it takes the pressure off, and it
Mm,
creates for more personal emotional space with the woman who finally stands up and starts saying no. She realizes that there's less pressure. She don't
mm,
she don't have to be the super mom, right? She doesn't have to be I'm every woman hear me roar, so to speak, right?
mm.
Because it gives an opportunity to allow women to be vulnerable. Because
Yeah.
if we're honest with ourselves, um, we can't always say yes,
Mm.
right?
So
And
I
it's
can just
so
hear part of my old self. Okay, Jesse. So hold on with me. Part of my old self that really struggle with boundaries. And I can also hear a lot of the women that I work with say, okay, well, great. Maybe if you have a husband like you that kind of see that your stuff kind of stays with you and you don't take things personally. But what if you have a husband or a partner that really does take almost anything you say personally, right? You say no to something and they have a tantrum. And
wow,
then how do you allow women to still stand into your power when they're kind of getting a lot of negative feedback
sure,
from their change?
absolutely. Well, I think authenticity can be a little scary,
Mm,
right? It's scary for the woman who's stepping into her own authentic self, and it can be a little scary for her significant other,
mm,
for her boyfriend or for her husband. But I like to say congratulations to that woman, because boundaries are the ultimate litmus test, right? Because it's going to reveal the true character and nature of your significant other, right? Because if they love you, they may be taken back by your new boundaries, right? But they're going to come around. And if they do not, then they're revealing to you just what type of man they truly are. And
mm,
ultimately, that's what we want. Because Trina, I think the concern is for many women, they're scared. If I truly reveal myself, will my husband love me any less?
mm,
Right?
mm.
If I truly reveal myself, will my husband pull away from me? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But if you have such a husband, or if you have such a man who's
Mm,
willing to pull himself away from you just because you're revealing your true authentic self by having boundaries,
mm,
I think that says a lot about his character, and perhaps he's not ready to deal with the new and fully authentic you, and perhaps it's for it's better off, right? Because people truly do outgrow each other, right?
mm,
And
mm.
sometimes we're with people, and sometimes they're not ready for the new us,
I
right?
see.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, we have to first get ready.
Mm.
Then whoever comes aboard will come aboard, right?
Right. So it's really, desiring a certain relationship or closeness and really being who we are. It
Absolutely.
does kind of threaten the partner a bit, right?
Of course.
Could threaten, right? Because now this sense of equilibrium or balance in the relationship all of a sudden it shows up differently. And
Absolutely.
so you're saying that you kind of have to expect maybe some like a process of integration or getting used to.
Sure.
And ultimately, you can't necessarily expect that the partner will maybe understand or embrace that new behaviors.
Yes. See, this is
Mhm.
yeah, this is definitely you hit it on the nail, Trina. See, the thing is this: we have to focus on our internal locus of control, right? The reality is we cannot change, or women cannot change their husbands, right? Although they may like to.
Yes, no, a lot of people would.
We could wave a magic wand, right? I'm certain every woman would do that. But the reality is, we can only control and change ourselves. And we even struggle with that, right?
Mm,
But we have a degree of influence on our
mm,
significant other. But we have to first be able to focus on ourselves, right?
mm,
And I like to believe, and this is the thing, we got to be careful, Trina, the stories that we tell ourselves
mm.
because
Yes.
most times women and men, right? But from my experience in working with many women, they might have some limited thinking, right? Some cognitive distortions. And they come to me and say that, well, if I set a boundary saying that I want to finally go back to school, right? If I set a boundary that my husband, you need to start cooking more. They automatically assume that the husband is not going to go for it. There's going to be pushback. But oftentimes, to their surprise, their husband might be, oh, that's kind of different. But I see her passion. I love her.
Mm,
This is what's making her happy.
mm,
Let's see how it goes.
mm,
So I think it really starts with us, and we have to practice that self-awareness and start checking in and be mindful of the stories we tell ourselves. Because most times the women are quite surprised that their husbands are on board. Their
mhm,
their boyfriends are like, wow, I love this fire. Like,
mm,
I mean, I haven't seen you like this in quite such a time. And like women, men just want the authentic self,
mm.
right? They don't want the window dressing. And I say this for many women, if you've been in a relationship for years with your boyfriend, with your husband or your fiance, and you've been through some tough times, some ups and downs, I would imagine he does love you.
Mm.
He may not be perfect, but if you still see this man through all these trials and tribulations and he is still there, there is something keeping him there. And
Yeah.
I would like to imagine that he does love you. He may not know to fully how to love you, but I would imagine that he does love you.
Mm. And that's what we see in most relationships, right? That it's not necessarily the the love of what initially got people together. It
Sure.
really is this getting lost in behaviors and expectations,
Mm.
and a lot of times we put on this persona, right? That we think other people want something specific, right? Which is really the farthest away from our true self, our authentic self.
Come
And
on.
what you're saying is that your work with women is if they allow themselves to be who they are, really connect with who they are, then the husband or the partner is more likely also to be vulnerable and expose themselves and be who they are.
Come on now.
And then what happens? Like what happens when two people are being who they are? What do you see in the change? Yeah, literally, right?
Sparks fly.
Yeah.
Sparks fly because I believe God had programmed that in all of us.
Mm,
We want to be connected to a person who's exposing their true authentic self so
yeah.
we can expose our true and authentic self,
Mm,
right? I would just say to your audience, like ladies, right, especially with men, right?
mm,
I'm sure that there's men who are toxic. There are some men who are unhealthy, but the majority of men, they just want a whole authentic human being they can
Mm,
travel through this life with,
mm, mm,
right? And I think the thing is, like, when you truly reveal your authentic self, the world beckons to you, right?
mm,
And we have to really stop with the limiting beliefs.
mm,
And most times when we don't want to establish boundaries, Trina, it's really coming from a place of scarcity, and it's
mm,
a scarcity mindset, right? And we need to start operating from an abundant mindset, right?
mm,
And once we start doing that, that's when the world starts beckoning to our call, right? It's kind of like,
mhm.
right? Have you ever seen a one-sided coin, Trina?
I don't think so, unless it's like lying down on something and you can't flip it over.
That sounds like an answer my 6-year-old, because he's very creative like that.
It's
We
pretty
try
good,
to
right?
find a loophole. We'll find a loopholes. But as it stands, no. There's, for every coin, there is a two sides. Have you ever seen a one-sided piece of bread, Trina?
Um, no.
Absolutely not. For every piece of bread, there's two sides.
Mm,
And for every relationship, there is two sides, right? For every woman out there who is wondering whether they should finally assert boundaries and step into their true and authentic self, there are two sides. There is
mm,
one side that's saying all the bad things that will happen. And then there's the other side, the abundant side that says, oh, you better do that, girl. It's like, where have you been? Right? Step
mm,
into your power, right?
yeah.
Because Trina, for every woman that is on this line, and I ask you as well, Trina, there's this small whisper that's constantly whispering to us that's saying, step into your power, girl.
Mm,
Right? Show up before the world.
mm,
The thing is, Trina, most women, they become desensitized and they start ignoring that small inner still voice.
mm,
It's always there. If you sit with yourself and you just pay attention, that voice is there and it's begging for that true and authentic woman to reveal herself, not just to her man or to her husband, but to her kids, to her work, right?
yeah.
Because when women start asserting boundaries, it doesn't just change the relationship with her significant other,
Mm,
start changing the relationship she has with her kids. Because
mhm,
her kids start seeing this woman really standing up for herself.
mm,
So the idea of boundaries are sexy because that's the name of my my company. It's encapsulates not just your relationship with your significant other, but your relationship with your kids. It spills all over into your relationship with work, with your coworkers. You show up a totally different person and a different woman.
mm. So I'm wondering, so in that sexy part, when you're talking about things kind of exploding when we are being who we are, I guess it's the same as this deep connection that we all want, right? That the only it's kind of like having a big laugh, or those moments where we're like playing 5-year-olds down on the ground. I'm sure some of
Yes.
you guys have done that with your kids, or allow yourself to do that, right? You kind of lose track of place and time, and you're just in the moment, right? You're just being who you are, and that's where that fire and passion and creativity happens, right? And that deep intimacy between people, not just necessarily couples, right? But just, with our friends and with people we're close with, family members and stuff like that, when we really can be in that space of, you've heard people say, they just accept me for who I am, right? Or I feel so comfortable in their
Yes.
company.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that is met, right? That we allow those guards to come down, instead of all that build up trying to protect ourselves or look cool or be a certain someone for our partner, right? That's kind of what you're talking about. So this sexiness is really,
this combustion of being attractive, really, not necessarily sexually, right? But overall, you know, I want to be close to that person. I want more of that person, right? Because the more people reveal themselves as being who they are, that's super attractive.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the analogy. It's like a dance. When you are operating one with your partner, you're operating one with your man and with your husband. And if ladies, you can remember the last time you truly danced with your husband or you truly danced with your man, you were playing, you were having fun, right? You were in sync with one another. It seemed like time stood still, right? But that's the relationship you can have when you begin to assert healthy boundaries, right? And not just boundaries with your man or your husband, but ultimately boundaries with yourself. Because the biggest thing that holds us back, Trina, most times in relationships, it's not our significant other, it's not our kids. Although we are part of our brain would like to default to that, is ultimately ourself.
Yeah. So how, you know, you're saying setting boundaries for yourself. What does that look like?
Oh my gosh. You're reading my mind, Trina. I love it. I love it, right? It can go many different ways, but I really think, again, we teach people how we want to be loved, right? So we cannot expect our husbands or our boyfriends or our significant others to love us if we're not truly loving ourselves. So really, how are we showing up, right? How are we showing up in terms of when we first waking up in the morning, right? What is our standard, right? Yes, you want your husband to find you sexy, but do you feel sexy? Right? You want your husband to love you, right? With this fire and passion, but are you getting up out your bed and you're walking out the door with that fire and passion, right? So really, our relationships, Trina, is a mirror, right? And unfortunately, through time and difficulty, that shine on that mirror, that image gets blurred and it gets cloudy and it's even cracked even. But ultimately, what we receive from our significant other and our husbands and your boyfriends is really a reflection of what we have within, right? Because you said something that was really powerful, Trina, and I think for most women, they are scared. They're scared that if I finally listen to that voice, how are people going to respond to me, right? But I most certainly will say this, because there's a reflex. For Trina, for mothers in particular, there's this reflex that I got to take care of everyone else before I take care of myself, right? And I love women for that, right? But ladies, if you've ever heard of the analogy, right, when the mother and the child, they're in the plane, right? And she's loving her baby is the world, and she's willing to do absolutely everything for that child, as she should, right? And heaven forbid, they're on this plane and the turbulence is happening, right? And all of a sudden the pilot is saying, we might have to do an emergency landing. And what comes from the roof? That gas mask. That reflex, ladies, mothers, caretakers, that reflex is to do what, Trina? What do we instinctively feel we must do?
We kind of want to protect them first, right?
Exactly, but that is the wrong thing to do. Why is that the wrong thing to do, Trina?
Yeah, because we got to take care of ourselves first. And I love this analogy, Jesse, because Louise and I use the exact same one, because it's so important for women out there to put their mask on first. Please do so.
So I don't know if you're listening. If you can put it in the chat, Put your mask on first.
First, yeah.
Because ladies, like when it comes to love, you cannot receive love from your man. You cannot receive love from your significant other. You can barely receive love from your children until you love yourself. Because that love has to come from a space of overflow. And ladies, what's going on for most of you, you are operating on empty. You have an empty cup, and you're trying to give love from an empty cup, and you're trying to receive love from an empty cup. It doesn't work, and that's not sustainable. You have to give and receive love from a full cup, because once your cup is full, that overflow, that's when the magic starts to happen. If you're full of love, that's when the magic starts to happen in your relationship with your husband, or with your significant other or your man. That's what happens with your children. And they're gonna be like, "Mommy, what's going on? You got this glow, right? Mommy, the food even tastes better when you cook. Like, Mommy, you're happy." Right? But that's when we start to love ourselves and we start saying no to others and start saying yes to ourselves.
I love that. I really do, because you know, we work with so many women who you know, we get into this victim mentality.
Yes.
And we want to feel loved, and a lot of times we look to other people, right?
Come on.
If only he could, or if only my children could, or why are they not more appreciative? And this is really that concept that you're speaking to here. It really comes from within, right? It comes from the fire, the passion, the deep internal voice of self-love and self-acceptance and worthiness, right? Talk about worthiness, talk about giving yourself permission to love yourself. Because if we have this expectation that other people will fill it, you know, they can, right? But we all know that eventually it's going to run out, and we're going to be really disappointed, and then we're going to sit in a hole, and we're going to be, why me? Why do I not get the people that love me?
Absolutely.
So you're saying, like, we need to work on ourselves. We need to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and love ourselves for who we are, and find ourselves sexy, and pretty much give to ourselves what we want other people to give us.
That's it.
Right?
And yes, and Trina, you said it. We have to give ourselves permission, because nobody.
I love permission.
Hey, come on, put it in the chat, guys.
Yes.
Put it in the chat. Give yourself permission to receive love, because guess what? Nobody's going to give it for you. Right? Fortunately, as loving as your husband or your man might be, most times we as men can be a little absent-minded, right? We could have a tendency to be selfish, right? As most people, right? Because the idea is everyone's focusing on themselves and they're in their own little bubble, but you have to give yourself permission. So ladies, put it in the chat. Give yourself permission, right? And that's when the doors start opening up. Right? Because you're going to start showing up as your true, authentic self, right? Your husband is going to see you for the authentic person that you are. And then he's going to want more of you. Right? Once you start seeing the real you, like the real Trina, please hit up, right? You start seeing that, boom, it's off to the races, right?
It's kind of it's counterintuitive. I found, you know, my own personal journey, you know, I thought I needed permission for everything. You know, I was born and raised in Denmark, and there is kind of like a lot of rules and a lot of people very obedient, you know, they always believe the best in people. And this is very stereotypical of Danish people, but it is really, there's a lot of goodness and maybe ignorance in that sense. But I really thought I need everybody's permission. And it took a long time for me to learn that the only one that gives permission is myself, is my own like limiting beliefs that just keep you stuck, right?
And the amazing thing is, Trina, that you've come into that knowledge, but for many women, they never have came into that knowledge until it's almost too late.
Yeah.
Right? There are many women who have invested 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in a relationship. And one moment, one day, they wake up in their bed or they go to that mirror, their bathroom mirror, and they see that person and they be like, who is this person that's standing before me? This is not the person who I was at one point. And it's really about getting back to love yourself again.
Yeah.
Right? Because that true authentic person is always there.
Yes. Yeah.
Always there. But with boundaries and self-love, we begin to tap in to that authentic self, and we begin to reveal that authentic self to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's so important. Giving yourself permission. And it never is too late, because anybody who is listening to this right now, who has been listening the last, 30, 35 minutes to this, they're interested. And I'm just going to say that those people that are interested in that means that you want more of this.
Absolutely.
Right? You have already progressed and aware enough to this point that it can change. Yes. I am on my way. I'm already doing it.
Yes.
And you may feel like you're not, but you are, because otherwise this would not make sense to you. This is not something you'd be interested in.
Come on now. Right? I love it, Trina. We cooking now. We cooking.
Yes.
The thing, Trina. You would not be on with us, with Trina and I, this long if boundaries, healthy boundaries, self-love was not resonating with you. Right?
Yeah.
There's no coincidence, right? The attention, let's keep it real. The attention span on social media is not long, right? 5 minutes if we're lucky. But for you to still be rocking with us at this point, this is for you. Yeah, this is for you, and this is absolutely speaking to your spirit. And I like to say, Trina, we have to go with not dipping our toe in the water fear, but we have to lead with jumping in the water faith, right? Because right now the brain is doing two things. There's part of your brain, ladies, that's saying, okay, maybe we just need to dip our toe in the water with this. Oh, it's too cold. I'm gonna turn around and go back in my car and go home. And there's a part of you that's saying, no, there's something on that horizon. And yes, it's going to be initially uncomfortable, but I'm not going to operate with dip my toe in the water fear. I'm going to leap in with jump in the water faith, right? So ladies, put in the chat or put it in your heart. I'm going to lead in my life, in my relationships, with jump in the water faith.
Oh, yes. I love that. Love it. Jump in, right?
Jump in, just jump in. And just like, I'm so excited because jump in, ladies, right? Jump in with what Louise and Trina are providing for you, because they're providing with invaluable information, right? And as well, ladies, Trina and Louisa have brought me here because I have something very amazing and special.
Yes, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Literally, it is a party. It is a party, right? And it's the Boundaries is Sexy Masterclass. And I'll repeat it again. And I love it, Trina, because you're rocking back and forth, right?
I love it.
It's going to get you moving. Amen. It's going to move you emotionally. It's going to move you physically and spiritually. Yes, I will be doing this soon, right? It will be happening very soon. It's called the Boundaries Are Sexy Masterclass. And the link will be provided for you somewhere on the screen here, whether you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube or if you're on Instagram. There will be a link which you can click. You can join our masterclass. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be life-changing. It's going to change how you see yourself. It's going to change how you see and operate in your relationships. Ladies, dive in. Jump in the water of faith. Click on that link and join us, because this Boundaries Are Sexy Masterclass is going to be absolutely amazing.
On fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fire, literally. Yeah.
That is so awesome, Jesse. I mean, how many people have seen a man teach this stuff? I mean, this is why we were so excited about Jesse, and Louise and I so on boundaries. I mean, this is you can't not have boundaries in anything, and the way that Jesse laces out and teaches this in a safe space, and I think a lot of us women just need a man that is safe and grounded and have an understanding of what women need, that can speak the language of, because a lot of men may not reflect that. And in my own journey, knowing that men can be safe.
Come on now.
That men can respect boundaries. What does respect look like? What is respect? How is it acted out?
Yes.
How is it spoken? Right? And I see you just lead that. I see you, attract women that are just really, really ready to take that leap and then just jump right in and say, give me more of that. They're just gonna get stepping into their power and hopefully changing their relationships. I mean, this is what we want. We just want people to be who they are. So,
wow, I'm grateful for that, Trina. I am simply a witness. I'm simply a witness of amazing women who've learned to love themselves. Yeah. And I'm telling you, ladies, when you begin to love yourself, truly, authentically, bravely begin to love yourself and assert boundaries, your relationships will change and your life will indeed change. Oh my gosh.
Trina, thank you so much, Jesse. It was a real honor to be in this room with you.
Thank you.
And people sign up.
Come on now, get into it, guys. The link is somewhere. The Boundaries Are Sexy Masterclass. I promise you, it will be absolutely life-changing for you individually and for your romantic relationships. And again, Trina, you and Louise, you two are absolutely amazing. I am so grateful for this opportunity just to share this wonderful, beautiful, transformative information with your audience. So Trina, thank you. Thank you, Jesse.
Take
care. See you in the masterclass, guys.